Hello, Zalto Live listeners. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that more teachings from Zen monk Claude AnShin Thomas are available in his 2 books, At Hell's Gate, A Soldier's Journey from War to Peace, and Bringing Meditation to Life, 108 Teachings on the Path of Zen Practice. Both are available wherever books are sold, and all proceeds go to the Zalto Foundation, dedicated to promoting nonviolence, awareness, and positive change.
Hello and welcome to Zalto Live, the podcast featuring Zen Buddhist Monk Claude AnShin Thomas, who will share with you his life experiences that includes not only military combat, personal violence, and addiction, but also healing, transformation, and the ongoing joy of everyday life. Please enjoy listening.
Question. Yes, Gabi and then Grace.
Have you ever had, Vincent, you have to help me, a Lachanfall?
Yes, like when you have a burst of laughter, like
In a situation which it was just very not fitting, and how you dealt with it.
Well, if I've had a burst of laughter, then it was fitting. I don't worry about that sort of thing. And there was something that got me. Now, it could also be true that in a moment I had a burst of laughter and it seemed out of place. It may have been because I didn't know how to really feel what I was feeling. But generally, if I have these bursts of laughter, they make sense to me. Grace.
I'm laughing now. So,
I was laughing now.
I was wondering what you were learning about yourself at the present time in your life.
Let's see. What am I learning about myself at the present time? Well, actually, one of the things that's most prominent in my life, or let's say it has been more prominent in my life lately, is the fact that there are less days in front of me than there are behind me. And I'm very sensitive to the topic of my own mortality. I have, I've been through a lot. And I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've been through drug overdoses, I've been in car accidents and motorcycle accidents, and I've been in falls, and I've had all these experiences, and I can't help but think that they somehow contribute to my mortality. Although I don't really know. I'm in very uncharted territory. The oldest surviving male member of the patriarchal lineage of my family was my father, and he died like a month and a half after his 53rd birthday. And so I'm 75. In November, I'm still an endurance athlete, even as I'm still an endurance athlete at 75. The things that I do are different now. I'm not competing in triathlons, but I recently qualified for the Iron Butt Riders Association, which is not an easy feat. And so I have to recognize how I am still quite active. I also only recently I've begun to. I never really recognized the number of the number associated with age. I just did what I did. But lately, I've touched on that a bit more, the fragility of my life. And so I'm working with everything that comes up around that. And still, I haven't taken any intoxicants for well over for coming up on 40 years, and I can't help but think that, you know, that the years that I have now, had I not stopped doing that stuff, wouldn't have existed. And so I'm making an effort to be present for the things that my mind does around this topic of my own mortality, and at the same time be really present with what I currently have. Not cling too tightly to all of this. I was thinking just the other day that when I die, I said, when I die, I'm going to miss the smell of the air. I mean, when I'm dead, I'm dead. I'm really not going to miss anything. But in front of that, I think, you know, that no more smell of the air. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, who knows? I don't really know. But no more smell of the sweet smell of the air. No more feeling the wind on my face. No more having a chance to have the cat stretched out on my lap and pet the cat. No more of some of these things associated with this existence. I think about, I've been thinking about these topics, or these topics have been more present in my life lately. So, and that's relatively new. That's what I'm working on in my life just now at this moment. Thanks for the question. Questions? Yes, Milko.
Anshina, how do you experience, if you experience at all, any limitations that you are coming into contact with as you move through time?
Well, I can't run marathons anymore. But I don't know if I don't have any desire to, really. I don't know if I could ever bring myself back into running, or any kind of long distance running. I don't know what that would mean. I'm still quite good with any limitations. I'm not 20. However, there's a lot of people who are 20 years old, and when I'm working, they can't keep up with me. You know, so I don't know if that's about stamina and conditioning, or it's more about mental attitude. I hear people talk about becoming forgetful. I think I've been forgetful since I was like 6, so I don't really worry about that, you know. And so limitations. I don't notice limitations because I merely sort of work within the constructs of what I have right now. So I don't really compare. Yeah. Questions? Yes, Genrai and then Kyoto.
Could you describe one or several kind of spiritual awakenings you might have experienced through the Zen practice?
I just had one. I walked into the kitchen, I looked over, and I saw the dishes there that needed washed, and I washed them. I washed them with intention, being really present with them. I stacked them neatly in the dish drainer, and then I rinsed the sink, dried my hands. To be able to see that, know that it needs done, just do it, be thankful that I have the opportunity and the capacity to do it. So it's not these grand things. What was it? It was, Kenshin and I were doing an incense round this morning. And for those of you who don't know what that means, who haven't been here before, so on Saturdays and during in-person retreats, we do it every day. We do an incense round. So we have 2 sticks of purple incense. I won't say it's short burning, but then we have some longer sticks. They are 4 hours.
2 hours.
Oh, they're 2 hour. They're 2 hour burn. They burn for 2 hours. So we have. I have altars in front of 3 of the properties, and we have a cat cemetery here. I have an altar in front of the zendo here. So I offer a small, shorter incense. Let's say a 1 hour incense, in front of the altar. And then I have the 2-hour incense. I do one in front of house 18. I do one in front of house 9, one in front of house 7, and one at the pet cemetery. And then there's about half of a 1-hour one left. And by the time we reach here, we offer it in the zendo here. There's more than that when I do a more formal round incense offering, because there's altars in the house in front of the zendo and the house where Kenshin and I reside. So we were doing this incense round, and as we were approaching the meditation hall, I noticed that there was a feral cat that was sitting in the driveway. And so out of respect for the feral cat, we went out of our way to walk around, to not frighten the cat. And to have that sort of connection, to realize that connection to the sensitivity of the existence of all this existence is just, I'm really okay with it. I'm not consciously thankful that I have it, but I'm thankful. Those are a couple immediate ones. Yeah. Kyoto.
Beyond the physical difference, what are your perception difference between men and women, if you perceive that there are differences?
Well, there are differences, but there are differences according to gender. There are differences. There are differences in our capability, and that doesn't mean that one is more capable than another. I would say in different circumstances, one gender may be more capable than another, but that bounces back and forth between genders. I would say that, I would just say from my perception, it's just like that. What I don't advocate is separation of the genders, separation but equal. I like to see the genders. Like when we do groups, I don't like to have a men's group and a women's group. I like to have these groups mixed, because I think it's important that we share together our experiences and our perceptions. So it's important that I be able to develop the capacity to listen, to be present when I'm in the company of women, so that I can more, and to cultivate the willingness to understand more deeply how women view the world, how they experience the world. Conversely, I would appreciate the same. So differences, yes. What they are would depend on the circumstance. Yeah. But we live in, although we share the same world, we live from different perspectives of that world, as a result of our gender. And just the way society influences our perceptions, and the way history has influenced our perceptions. I'm talking about history, I'm talking about family history. Yeah. Question? Yes, Milena.
I feel very confused about when you say sit just to sit, right? And then we read the 4 great vows. Creations are numberless.
Yep.
I vow to freedom.
Yes.
And then delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. So those vows, for me, they drive me into my practice. Like it's like an urge to do, to achieve.
Yes.
And the cushion, the meditation, or every day, whatever happens, is an opportunity. But then you say sit just to sit. For me, those two things don't match. How do you solve that, or have any suggestion of what to do with my confusion?
Yeah, just keep sitting just to sit. Recite just to recite. That I have some notion of what it means. Creations are numberless. If I have a notion about what that means, then I miss the point of the recitation. So it's also reciting just to recite, and not reciting to accomplish something or to understand something. People get into a lot of trouble in recitations when they attempt to figure out or analyze what it means. If I notice that I'm attempting to figure out intellectually what this means and then accomplish it, then I miss the point of the recitation. Or actually, the recitation's working because it's putting me in conflict, because it's impossible. So it's really important just to recite. And then just to recite and just to notice as I continue to recite these different texts, how I respond to them or what they mean to me. Sometimes I may react to something within the text, and sometimes I may not have any connection at all. I just keep reciting, and I don't try to figure out what the text means. I think that's a great trap. And so if I think I know what this text means, I've missed the point of the recitation. So I would say just continue. Don't think about it. See, the trouble is with people that they get too busy trying to get meditation practice into some intellectual construct that they can comprehend. And if they think they've achieved that, that they've missed the point. And sooner or later, that meditation practice that they have won't sustain them. It'll lead them again and again and again into conflict and confusion. It's when I just do this to do it, when I don't attempt to understand it or achieve something through it, do it just to do it. It's quite interesting how then life begins to unfold for me. And I don't always go, oh, well, it's unfolding because of this. I just notice. And I just continue to do this, to do what I do. The last thing I really wanted to do was have a retreat this weekend. So the last thing I wanted to do. I'm saying, geez, really? There are other things I could do, man. But it's now that I make the commitment to do it because it's important to be done. I do it just to do it, and then I see what sort of grows out of the experience for me. So if I can only invite you to make the greatest effort to not grab a hold of a recitation and sort of think and have the impression that you really do understand what it means, and then attempt to get your life to conform to that understanding. That does lead to confusion. Question? Yes, Zonia.
My mother experienced a lot of trauma in her childhood, and she still suffers a lot from it. And through this suffering, I assume through this suffering, she can be really hurtful to other people.
So your question?
Sorry? Yeah. How can I be connected to her and have her in my life and love her, but not always get hurt by her or her actions or her suffering?
I don't have an answer for that, Sonia. What I can say is that in my case, I grew up with a mother who was violent. I grew up with a mother who was unpredictably violent, emotionally, physically. I grew up with a mother who was abusive physically, sexually, and I hated her. For the longest time, I just hated her. What grew out of practice for me was, at a certain point, let me step back. As a result of the reality of my relation with my mother, because what she did to me was criminal. I had to have no contact with my mother. None. Because the moment I would attempt to have contact with her, it would set in motion a dynamic that was just not healthy. And I couldn't do anything about that because there's nothing I can do to... My mother wasn't willing to do anything to wake up to her suffering and to do things different, and there's nothing I could do to change that. So accepting the reality of what happened when we came into contact, the solution was not to have any contact. That was the most compassionate thing I could do in this particular relationship. Over time, I stopped hating my mother. Over time, I was able simply to say, what must have happened to my mother to treat me like this, to act in the way she acted? So I had another measure of compassion around my mother. That didn't mean that we could suddenly have a relationship. It just meant that there was a deeper level of understanding for me, and the hate that defined my memory of her, my connection to her, melted away. And it's not that I had a decision or an action or to do that. And I'm not a forgiveness person, so this isn't about forgiving my mother. It's about understanding that I have no idea what must have happened to her, and it must not have been nice. And so I had this measure of sensitivity and compassion. Nothing I can actually do. Nothing. This is the way it unfolded for me. What I would say to you is that if you were to remain disciplined, committed, and you hold a sustained practice, that the answer to that question will at some point show itself to you. It will. And the other thing that was important for me to understand was that, and this came to me through my study in the first monastery I lived and studied in, was that within me exists all past generations. My mother's in me and my father's in me. My grandparents are in me. So I can't do anything about my mother or my father's, but I can do something about them in me. So I can, that's the wonder of the reality of karma, that it can be changed. And the way it's changed is I just stop doing things. I become sensitive to how I'm perpetuating certain cycles of suffering, and I just stop doing that. I just stop doing those things. Stay committed to sitting just to sit, walking just to walk, eating just to eat, reciting just to recite, and observe how my life unfolds. Question? Yes, Kelly.
Anshin, I have a question about something I heard you say in a podcast about a comment on social media about you not following real Zen. Ring a bell, or can you help me understand that?
So what's your question?
If you can help me understand that, please.
I mean, what if somebody steps in front of me and says, this is the real Zen? I go, get out of here. Come on. What are you talking about? Then they have an idea what Zen is, and they're trying to get their life to conform, and they're using it as an identity, and that's not the point. If we've done any study at all, we see how the teachers, the ancient masters that we get exposed to through writings, that none of them did the same thing. They all had Buddhist practice manifested itself in them the way it did. The one thing that is pretty steady across centuries, generation after generation, is the commitment to establish that basic foundation for an active practice, which is just sitting. Sitting and then carrying that into everything that they do. So I used to be more sensitive to that in the past than I am now. if you look at the difference between, let's say, look at the difference between teachers who are out there today, you'll see that no one does it the same way. And somebody who has to say, like, I have the real Zen, I just go, okay, good. I hope it works for you. But if you're claiming you have the real Zen, and then after you get up off the cushion, you can't wait to light up a cigarette and get out to the bar so you can have a beer or something, or get home and pop a top. Don't talk to me. I don't want to hear it. It's impossible. If I'm clouding my mind, if I'm taking these kinds of substances, I'm clouding my mind, there is no possibility to wake up. I have no idea what the real Zen is. There's a story. There was this teacher. I guess this was somewhere, one of these back in the hundreds or something, maybe in the teens somewhere. There was this teacher, and students would come into his room and he would say, "Oh, so what's Zen?" And they start to explain, and then he'd beat them with a stick. I go, well, I'm not going to do that. But it's like the message is communicated in the writing. It's not necessarily that the beating may have been real, it may have been metaphorical. So I don't worry myself about those things. I have great compassion for people who have to grab on to pretend to be Asian. You know, they simply replicate what they see happening someplace else. It's not theirs. They don't own it. It's not their practice. And you can't get, maybe in the beginning you start out by just replicating everything you're exposed to. But at a certain point, it has to mature. And we have to grow into what it is that we're replicating. If we don't grow into it, then it's not ours. And it's merely some sort of identity. I'm wrapping myself up and I'm missing the point. I'm mountains and rivers away from the point. Question? Yes, I can look at you in the screen.
Yes. By the way, the cat is here.
The cat that I talked about earlier is here. It's having a snack.
My question is, I've heard the statement that it's up to me how much I let something or someone hurt me or anger me. And what is your experience? How much determination is really involved in that?
Well, the statement is actually, from my perspective, the statement is quite true. At first, I have to be aware that I have to, if I feel hurt by someone, I have to understand whether what they've done is actually hurtful or they're not doing what I want them to do, and so I feel hurt by that. I have to have the capacity to be able to look at the experience from different angles of perception. That's why having an authentic teacher and a community of like-minded people where I'm willing to ask, I'm willing to bring this into a community, bring these interactions to a teacher or into a community, and I'm willing to listen to what they have to say and consider what they have to present to me. That I'm not immediately in argument or debate with them. If somebody brings me a question or brings me a circumstance and they say, what ought I to do here? And I go, I don't know what you ought to do, but you might try this, this, or this. And then they start arguing with me. It's like, they can. Then I just step aside. They can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want to do. An example, it hasn't happened in a while, but I have had people in the past come up to me and go, Anshin, you're the one. You have what I want. I really want to study with you. And I go, really? Okay. I said, and they say, what do I got to do? I'll do anything. I go, really, anything? Careful. They said, then 4 basic commitments. 4. Not 3 2/3, 4. First commitment, no intoxicants, no alcohol, no illegal drugs. And if you're taking medications prescribed to by a doctor, I want to talk to you about those. Second, no meat, fish, or poultry. You don't eat any meat, fish, or poultry. The third, you set up an altar in some place that's comfortable to you or feels appropriate to you, and that the altar be set up with 5 basic elements. And then you commit to sitting twice a day, first thing in the morning, last thing at night. And then you commit to attending a longer practice period with me, 10 days or more. And if I'm out on the street or I'm on pilgrimage, then you commit to joining with me for a period of that, not the whole thing, but for a period of that. And I usually get a stumble at the first 2 requests. The first request gets the most stumbles. They go, well, what do you mean? My former teacher said I could, how about a glass of wine with dinner? I can have a glass of wine with dinner. I said, no intoxicants. Say, well, my former teacher said that, and I go, then study with them. If you want to practice with me, these are the conditions. The other one is like no meat, fish, or poultry. And they go, well, I need my protein. I go, there's a lot. The protein that we can get from other sources is much more healthy for us than that. So people can do it. I just don't get invested into attempting to convince people. I'm not here to sell you that true Zen. My practice has evolved and matured the way it has through my commitment that was instilled in the people that I studied with and all of the study that I've done and how my life has unfolded. This is what I offer. I do it because it's important for me to do it. People benefit from that, or they want to be involved in that, and they're willing to take those steps, then I'm willing to support them in whatever way I can. If they don't want to do it, it's okay with me. I don't care. Go do something else. If you want to wake up, though, we need to do things differently. We can't think ourselves into a new way of living. We must live ourselves into a new way of thinking. We can't understand the mind with the mind. That only comes through a sustained, discipline, committed practice. And that's not just sitting. That's having that foundation of sitting and then bringing that into everything we do all the time. When the voice says, no, I don't want to do this, we do it anyway. Do it just to do it. Question? Okay, if there are no more questions. Oh, Kenshin. Oh, yes, Ken, right.
I know that you make commitments like in the morning or generally towards life. Is there any time that you also ask for help, let's say to the, I don't know, greater reality of the universe or the interconnectedness, just like referring like, here, I could use some help?
No, I usually turn to you for that. or somebody else around, I might call Miyoko up, say, Miyoko, I need some help, Yeah. Okay. So that's how I do it. It's like when I feel overwhelmed and I'm going through a space now where I feel somewhat overwhelmed. There's an unknown in front of me, and that brings up a lot of feelings and memories and experiences for me. And in those moments, I remember that. Be careful, because the mind wants to drag me down certain rabbit holes, and the anchor I have in the sea of suffering is breath and attention to detail. So it's slowing things down, doing things like this, not avoiding them, not shutting myself off. There are, over the last several days, there's been any number of moments when I've simply not wanted to leave my room. Just don't want to leave my room. However, my desire to engage with life is much stronger than to withdraw from it, and withdrawing from life is not a solution. Kenrai.
Yeah, it's connected. How do you digest all the suffering you are exposed to, the personal and also the wider suffering?
I don't have to digest it. I don't. I just have to, it's just, this is like this. I do what I can do within the constructs of my own existence. But I do. There's nothing I can do about, there's a lot of existential threats in the world. I can't, it's just like, there's nothing I can do about that. To dwell on that or to allow that to sit on me is the same as locking myself up in a room. It's an exercise in futility. So what can I do? This is what I put my attention to. What can I do? What can I do practically to support me in navigating the weight of things that sometimes sits on me or that I'm experiencing? Yes, like this thought. I wish my son would have had these kids like when he was 20 or 25. I'd have some time with them, but he didn't. So rather than dwell in that, I go, wow, I get a chance to have some time with them. My father didn't. My father died just shortly after my son's first birthday. He was young. So I want to take full advantage of the opportunities that I have and not think and concentrate on that rather than what potentially could happen or what I don't have. Somebody asked a question the other day in a group that Kenshin and I facilitate, and they said, if someone gave you $10 million with no strings, what would you do? I said, well, that's really quite simple. I would satisfy the indebtedness here at the center, make it as ecologically as carbon neutral as possible. Then I would initiate I would start into motion the Oakwood initiative, which is to provide a non-medical approach to moral injury and post-traumatic stress, and then look at how I could how that money could be effectively put to work for the benefit of others. I'd continue to drive this '93 Ford pickup truck, and I would continue to I'd continue to dig up the water lines and replace them and do the repairs around. I would continue to do all of that stuff. And I would probably need a subject matter expert to support me and how to put that money into the best use. But I would be cautious about who that subject matter expert was, because I would want that money to be put to good use, for the benefit of all. And I don't necessarily know what that means. So without any idea about what that means, holding that topic open, which is the root of sitting just to sit, walking just to walk, eating just to eat. It's willing to hold this, to experience this space open, not have to define it and shape it and understand it and comprehend it. I would see what unfolded for me. I would see. But the chances of somebody giving me 10 million, it's like pretty slim.
I can still do questions.
Yeah, questions. Any questions? Yes, Kenrai. And then Kyoto, and then Milena.
How are we not broken?
You have to come to that conclusion. You have to not answer the question. See, if I perceive myself as broken, that's an illusion. Then I'm clinging to an identity that's not necessarily the truth. My greatest liabilities, if I'm willing if I'm willing to embrace the openness that practice presents to me, this sitting just to sit, walking just to walk, eating just to eat, reciting just to recite, and not have to, and not look at the fact that I describe some of the realities of my life, and I'm not defined by those realities. They are a part of my life. They actually shape what I'm able to accomplish today. So it's a question of, do I dwell in the negativity of those experiences, or do I allow them to inform me so I can provide the model that we are not our experiences. We can do something different with the fabric of our lives. So no, I'm not broken. None of you are, unless you think you are, and then that's what practice is, to sort of be willing to let go of that identity. Kyoto.
Are you worried for the future of your grandchildren in relation with climate change?
No, that would be a waste of time. Really, it would be just a waste of time. They're here. That's it. They're here, and I do everything that I can do to address this topic, and they can see through my actions. They have that as an experience. I mean, who knows with climate change? Who knows how it's going to unfold in our lives? Who knows? All I know is that I want to be as ecologically sensitive as possible. So no, it's a waste of time to get lost in that the existentiality of that reality. Yeah, I don't know. We don't know how it's going to unfold. I don't know when it's going to unfold. Who knows? It could unfold like tomorrow, and then it affects everybody, all of us. So people said, "Oh, you need to have guns and you need to stockpile food, because if you don't have people." I said, "Look, if I stockpile food, other people are going to want it. If I have guns, then I'm going to have to kill people." I said, "I've done enough of that already." They said, "Well, they'll kill you." I said, "Well, then I don't have to worry about climate. I don't have to worry about climate stuff, I'm dead." So it's just like not cling so much to this idea of, cling so much to all of this. But if I don't cling to all of this and my ideas of all of this, I have an opportunity to really experience it in its fullness. In its fullness, it's both beautiful and ugly. To not wish it to be one or focus on the other. Milena.
During the meditation practice,
Which
throughout
one?
the years,
Which one?
what is it?
Are you talking about a specific thing, or are you talking about a life rooted in the daily
I'm
life?
talking about my practice.
Okay.
When I sit and meditate throughout the years,
Okay.
I have noticed that my way of being with thoughts when they come up
Yep.
is different, and I'm wondering if this is if that is let's say natural as part of the process, or I'm imposing something, because the thing is I'm getting more firm with my thoughts. Before they came and I just let them go. Now when I see a thought like let's say that I'm thinking I'm not good enough, that thought comes up, and I really do like, hey, I'm not interested. Like I have an approach that is more let's say a little harsh. So I'm wondering if that is something you would recommend, or I don't know, but I noticed that that's what I've been doing lately with that kind of thoughts.
Yes, I would encourage you not to do that, because that which I deny or push away has a greater influence on my life, because it's influencing my life, and I'm not willing to see that, touch it, or feel it. So when the topic comes, there are moments, Milena, when I've talked about this before quite openly. There are moments that arrive in which I just hate myself. I do not make an effort to chase those away. I understand the root of those thoughts and feelings. And what I know today is that if I don't attempt to get rid of but rather develop a relationship with that, the Torei Zenji, we recite the Torei Zenji, Bodhisattva thought precepts, and there's that line about enemies or something. Yes, I don't. I know it. When I recite it, I don't need to read it, but I can't recall it. So yes. If someone names us a sworn enemy and persecutes us, that can be my own thoughts. We should be warm and compassionate towards them. Their very abuse conveys the Buddha's boundless loving kindness for us. Now, what is Buddha? Buddha is all of this. It's not the deity. It's not a deity. It's not a person. It's the totality of experience. It's being willing to just embrace the totality of experience, which is, sometimes I'm of the nature to hate myself. It makes a great deal of sense considering my history and some of the things that I've done. And that's just a reminder of what I don't want to do, how I don't want to be. So I mean, you're going to live, your practice is going to evolve the way it does. But I can say from my perspective, I encourage people to do just the opposite, to not chase that stuff away. Now, in an evolutionary process, it's like I cannot accept everything all at once. It just doesn't happen like that. So I can't accept the fullness of my sadness all at once. It would just crush me, I think. So what's happened is over time, my relationship to my sadness, my relationship to my happiness, my relationship to my hatefulness, my relationship to my anger, my relationship to all of these things has evolved. Because I don't cling to a specific way in which I'm supposed to interact with these things. I don't do it from an ideological perspective. I just do the best I can I stay committed to the tools that I pass on to all of you. I do these things. I stay committed to those things, and I experience life as it shows up. So if right now you're going through a harsh period, don't be too harsh on yourself about going through a harsh period. Just be sensitive about that and say, and understand that if I'm pushing this stuff away, I can't really do that. You know, it's like, here's an example I give my mother. When my mother was alive, she was living down in South Florida with my two half-sisters, and a hurricane had come through their area. And I reached out, checked in with my mother, and I said, "Geez, are you okay?" She said, "What do you mean okay?" I said, "The hurricane that came through your area. Is everything okay?" She said, "Oh, that, I just pulled down the blinds. You know, the shades. I just closed the curtains." And when we attempt to push things away, we're closing the curtains. It doesn't mean it's not there and it can't have an impact, but we're pretending. We're attempting to control our experience with life rather than live it. Questions? And all of this is informed. It's informed through my years and years of sitting just to sit, walking just to walk, eating just to eat, and really taking the risk to just be present to this experience which is called my life, and all the ways in which it's shown up. Question?
My conditioning around death is rather dark and heavy. Mm-hmm. In the spirit of having more balance, would you think it would be good to look a little more at it in a celebratory way?
Oh, I don't know if I don't know. You know, when I die, I don't want people running around playing tubas and beating on drums. I think that's another overreaction. I think we just need to be present with the experience of death. There is a certain heaviness. There's a certain heaviness that comes with loss. But then if I only pay attention to the heaviness, I miss the other side of heaviness that did exist, that was present when whatever the entity was that died, it gave to me. You know, I'm clinging. I cling to, I want more of that. No, this, I can't have it anymore. It's not like that. It's like, the acceptance, it's gone. That experience has transformed. And there's some sadness about that. But how much joy to focus on the joy and on the not joy, I don't know, that was the experience when this entity, whether it was a family friend or an animal or whatever it wasn't all pretty. It wasn't all nice. So I have to be careful in death that I don't sort of memorialize things. I remember when my father died, they had him an open casket, and all these people were coming from town, and people were saying all these like grand things about my dad. It's like they never said those things when he was alive, never. And I'm going like, it was so fake. I just really got angry. I was also getting high at the time, but I got really angry, and I stormed out of there and threw a chair and slammed the door. And I don't have to behave like that anymore. I just don't. So my father, I used to idolize my father and hate my mother. But then I didn't see my father in his wholeness nor my mother in her wholeness. That meant I didn't see myself in my wholeness. And that's what I really want to do. I want to see myself in my wholeness. Question. Yes, Milena. Milena, you need to come here. Yeah, you need to come here and spend some time here with me.
I want to do that.
Yes, please. Yeah, the bed's made. It's waiting for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll be there.
Good.
I'll be there when the time comes. Thank you. Anshin, there are behaviors that we need to stop. And we stop those behaviors because we know that that's for the better.
Well,
right?
We don't necessarily know they're for the better.
Okay, but it's an option. And we could take action in terms of, we can decide, okay, I'm not gonna do this, or I'm gonna do it. So we change our behavior up until we, as much as we could. We try our best. Isn't that the same thing with the thoughts? Because I feel that some thoughts are highly addicted. Like some thoughts just come because we have I have the addiction to keep thinking the same thing about me.
So,
and at some point I say, okay, no more.
When those thoughts arise, you can just go, shh.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
But not
more. No more.
No, just go, shh, it's okay. But not to push it away, not to reject it, but to say, shh, come on. Come on already. Really. Yes. But that's different than pushing it away, denying it, not wanting. It's like these thoughts come and to not resist them. Now, you originally said there are certain behaviors that we just stop. Behaviors that are not helpful to us or to the people around us. When we become aware that we have behaviors that are not helpful to us or the people around us, then we have the possibility to stop. But when we stop, we need to just stop behaving like that and not think, well, I need to stop doing like this and I need to do like this. Because then I'm just simply switching seats on the Titanic. I need to just stop. And then allow myself to pass through what is described in Buddhist practice as the bardo hells. This is the space between transmigrating from one realm to another, where there's no place to stand firm. It's a confusing place. But we need to hold steady as we pass through these bardo realms before the next sort of realm of existence reveals itself to us. So we stop an old behavior And before something can take its place, we have to endure. We have to be willing to experience, to really be present to this, to the press we have of replacing it with something else already. We just have to be willing to not know what's next, to sit with the unknown, to stand the pressure that we need to the pressure to not feel sort of the flatness or the confusion or all of the things that begin to surface in this place of not knowing, this Bardo realm. It's the same. I mean, when I have those moments that you describe pop up in terms of my thoughts, I just go, I always, initially I listen, I go, really? It could be, is this still true? And I really examine my life. So I don't reject them. I really use them. I really do examine my life and to see if there is still not some truth in that thought. And if there is no truth in that thought, then I go, yeah, not today. Not right now, come on. But this is all, what we're talking about here is all that is revealed for us through the process that is articulated in the Diamond Sutra, the Lankavatara Sutra, the Avatamsaka Sutra, in the Platform Sutra. It is what Buddhist practice makes an effort to address, has been addressing for millennia. Not millennia, but millennia. Yeah. So everything that I talk about here is rooted in my experience, which I'm encouraged to have in its wholeness as a result of the discipline that's passed on to me, and it's echoed through all of those teachings. However, when I do those studies, I don't do them from an intellectual perspective. It's not about gaining some massive knowledge and comprehension and using that to show you how wonderful I am. It's about informing me in my life. And if no one ever came again, I would continue to do what I do right now, right here. I might be talking to an empty screen, but I still have this question and response session with myself, because those thoughts come and they ask questions of me. They demand responses of me. My experiences in life, they ask questions of me. They demand responses from me. So I have the grounding of the discipline that I pass on to you that supports me in this process of awakening. Time to bring this practice to a close. Thank you for your questions. I appreciate it very much, because your questions, in essence, are not questions, but teachings for me. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode on Zalto Live. If you would like additional information, please look at the show notes or visit zalto.org. That's ZALTHO.org. Our work is made possible solely through donations, so please consider making a tax-deductible gift on our website. We wish you well and thank you.